My guest today is Mick, one of the most respected DJs in the game. His reach goes far beyond music. He's performed for brands like Cartier, Spotify, GQ, worked with icons from Jay-Z to LeBron James, and he's also a startup advisor and investor with a sharp eye for culture and innovation. He's part tastemaker, part entrepreneur, part father, and in this conversation, we try to hopefully get into all of this. Mick, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Thanks for taking the time. And, it's been a while, like we haven't seen each other. I wanted to start this podcast with a question, basically, that goes back into your early years. You've been woven into the fabric of, NYC's hip hop scene for years. What was the moment for you or person that first pulled you in? And how has your relationship with culture evolved since?
Ooh, well, I mean, if we want to talk like New York specifically, because my entry into like DJ culture was like when I was way younger, and I grew up in Ohio and outside of Cleveland, so like that was like a whole other entry. But like my entry to discovering like what I imagined New York sounded like was probably when I was in high school, which was 92 to 96. I'm 47. I'm old.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember listening to like a Funkmaster Flex mixtape, and I remember like I'd never heard anything like that before, especially in Ohio. He DJ'd so different than every DJ in Ohio DJ'd. It was just so distinctly New York, and it was so just different than anything I'd heard on the radio or happened to see like on TV or anything like that. And I was like, what is this? The energy of it was just so crazy. And I just remember listening to that like over and over and over again. And that kind of like started to inform my DJ style just a little bit.
When did you move to New York?
I moved to New York way later. I moved to New York in 2008. So I was 30 years old, which was also, it's like old for some, young for me now. And, I had a whole full fucking life, bro, like before I moved to New York, 3 decades of like life. And then I just was like, let me see if I can, you get one chance to try to like really do something else with your life. I feel like you have one chance to just kind of like throw caution to the wind and see what can happen. And I had finished college, I'd finished grad school, I'd done about everything you could do in Cleveland as a DJ. So I felt like well situated to take a risk and see what could happen because I knew I had a lot of backups. Like I'm a big believer in having a backup to your like big dream jump. A lot of people say like don't have a backup because then you won't fail. And I'm like, that's fucking stupid because most of us fail. Like we fail all the time. I fail at shit all the time. Like I failed 4 things today. And if you're going to like throw your whole life into moving across the country to follow a hobby that was, lucky that you have it in the first place, you better have some backup plans. But I also believe that when you have a backup plan in anything, that you actually, some people say if you don't have a backup plan, you'll go harder. I believe if you do have a backup plan, you will go harder because you know that you could literally leave everything on the table because like if it doesn't work out, it's okay. So like when you know it's going to be okay, I feel like the neural pathways of your life almost like open up more and like, okay, well, it's going to be okay. So like you're a little bit more relaxed, you're a little bit more confident in your decision making. You're not just like sweating it because you have to figure it out. And because of that, it's like going on a first date, but now you don't have to be nervous because if that date doesn't work, you got like a bunch of other awesome dates like lined up. That's kind of like how it's better to do that than go on a date with somebody and be like, oh, well, I need this shit to work out or I'm going to be single my whole life. Like what sort of mind state is that, right? What sort of mindset is that? And so I believe when you're making big career decisions or big life decisions, like it's smart to like have a backup. And so I did, but I moved here and it worked out and here we are.
I mean, I have the same philosophy. I feel like people a lot of times like they think entrepreneurial journeys have to be this incredible story of like, you burned the boats and then you didn't have any choices to make it. But I have the same approach as you. If you put yourself in a state where you can operate not from fear, but from from abundance and from a place of comfort, not necessarily like resting on your laurels, but comfort of knowing like, hey, like I'm intelligent. I thought this shit out, and if it doesn't work out, well, I have all these other avenues to explore. You have so much mental bandwidth to work with.
And I like that you said burn the boats because those people who believe in that, they also have to burn the boats from their cold plunge while they're in the hot tub, while they're fasting, while they're getting NAD plus injections, right? Like you gotta add all the bullshit while you're saying that too.
You came up from in the golden era of mixtapes. What do you genuinely miss about that era that nowadays with streaming we just can't replace?
I miss like the fact that if you really wanted some really new, like dope premium shit, you had to seek it out. It just wasn't there for you to like type it in though. I love being the beneficiary of randomly typing in shit whenever I want it these days, and that's really cool. But I only appreciate that now because I went through all the eras of not just being a member of the person who was giving to people that cool shit, but also actively searching for it for myself all the time, even dating back to before I was a DJ. Like when I was in high school and I wanted to find something obscure and cool and unique and just different, like I would find like if you're going to go buy the cassette single, I'm going to go buy the cassette maxi single with the remixes. Then when everyone started buying CD singles, I'm going to buy the European CD single because it had 10 extra B-sides that weren't on the US version, right? And then same thing with like when the internet came, then it was like, okay, you're going to go to rollingstone.com. Well, I'm going to find these cool blogs. And then when everyone started doing blog stuff, like, oh, you're going to just rip albums. Well, I'm going to find cool mixtapes. Like there was always a layer and a level to go. There was a couple levels deeper than the average consumer. And that's a DJ mindset, whether you're a consumer or you're a DJ. Like if you're digging like in that respect, you're kind of paying homage to the art of the craft in the first place, which was how this all started, right? Just like the curational mindset of it all. And so for me, I guess that's kind of like an answer to your question, but I would say also like there was such a magical time in mixtapes from like, let's say 2001 until 2005, because there was a whole generation of stars that were born exclusively on mixtapes, because mixtapes were able to go global, not just global from like bootlegging and pressing them up and like mail ordering them to like Japan or Europe or something like that. But because of the blog scene and the bootleg internet scene happening at the same time that the street scene was still popping, like the best time of my mixtape career, which is long gone, but it would be like knowing that some dude in New York on Canal Street was able to like bootleg my shit and put me on Canal Street, but he got it off of like a blog, you know? So like that sort of stuff was like best of both worlds, right? Like I could have like a lot of college kids listening to my stuff when I was like 30, but I could also have like real mixtape connoisseurs from New York also listening to it. And it was still that best of both worlds kind of era where you could have, you know, anybody who wanted to find something new and different, they could find it in any medium that they liked. And that was really refreshing. And then everything went strictly digital soon after that. And that also led to another really fun boom, because that led to the whole blog era for hip hop, which gave us so many amazing people that are still stars. That era gave us Drake and Kendrick and J. Cole and you know, and all that. All of them came from that whole era of like hip hop blogs, which became the new mixtapes. Now, I'm not really sure like what would even be that. I think everyone just, I guess TikTok, you know, it's a little weird though, you know, it's not quite the same. The curation isn't quite there anymore.
I miss that era where, I'm sure you remember this, but where we would buy CDs and a lot of times there were some secret tracks at the end of the CD. If you kept playing it, like that was fun.
Oh, dude, I think it was like, even, I mean, I'm dating myself with my age, but like even when like Jay-Z's Blueprint came out and there was like 3 songs at the end that just weren't like listed on the track list, and you go through one of the greatest albums of all time and then wait, what the fuck? There's 3 more songs? Like really? Like it was crazy, you know? It was like when you watch like those like the Avengers movies and you stay for like the end of scene, end of credit scenes. Like I feel like hip hop was early on that.
The way that digital has changed and shifted the way that artists create is now, I feel like it's so much short term, you know, like people are releasing more like singles and everything. Back then, what I found was cool was that you, through a mixtape or through an album, you were able to tell a story, a much more compelling story, and then just release one single and then like, okay, on to the next single, because now like that's how good marketing works. And people don't necessarily want to spend like, you know, years or months developing like one single album.
Yeah, I liked when you took a chance on somebody with a mixtape that like you had at least 5 to 15 chances to potentially fall in love with their work, versus if somebody just sends you a link to a single, well, you have one chance, right? And if you don't like it, you don't like it. And that's totally fine, by the way, because we don't like everything. But at least if I heard a 50 Cent mixtape in 2003 or a Dipset mixtape in 2003, you know, I'm going to find something I like, you know? And then once you like that, then that kind of opens your mind to like what the artist is. And then maybe you can go back and listen to those other songs and appreciate them different. And you know how it is when you would listen to a cohesive body of work. The shit that dragged you in was not, those don't end up being your favorite songs. A lot of times it's the songs that you barely listen to, or the songs that you didn't even like at first. And then you repeatedly listen to them. And those ones ultimately become your favorite because it takes a while to connect with you, which is what's supposed to happen. Like it's supposed to take a while to connect with you. It doesn't need to be like, here's an algorithm of your 10 favorite things that we know you like. So if we put them all in one song, we're going to give this to you and this will be your number one song. Sure, that'll be your number one song to get in your ear first, but that's not going to be the number one song that like stays with you because you need to like have that duality, you know?
Yeah. I remember when the way I discovered Lil Wayne was mainly through his mixtapes. Back then, like he was dropping mixtapes like I feel like every 2 weeks or something. And
it was a crazy time.
Like, yeah, and the cool thing is that was also his marketing strategy, which is that, you know, he'd appear on other people's tapes and just like completely change a song, and you're like, wow, who is this guy? And that was like the heyday of Young Money and all that stuff, which eventually, you know, broke up. But at least it's still there, but like it's not what it used to be.
Right.
It's probably hard for you to choose, but what was the first mixtape or rap album that changed you? You mentioned Funkmaster, right? But you know, the one that made you hear music differently.
That was, and I have it. I keep it in my drawer. It's the first cassette I ever bought with my own money, which was Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince.
Wow.
He's a DJ, I'm the rapper. I actually keep it in my desk drawer. I had it since fourth grade. He's become obviously like a friend and a collaborator over the years. But like, I was in fourth grade when I heard that. I was young. I was the age my son is now, actually, and was way more advanced music taste in fourth grade than I did. But as he should, because he's my son. But like, you know, but yeah, like that changed my perspective on what hip hop could be, what pop music could be, what sampling. I don't want to say what sampling could be because I didn't know what that meant in fourth grade, but what it was, and how you could creatively use other people's music to make something new and fresh and different and artistic. And that changed my whole perception of music. If I didn't hear, you know, and if you want to talk about what I was saying before, like there was 2 singles on that album that were like super commercial and they went platinum, and they're more like commercial songs, but the rest of that album was very underground and like breakbeats and samples and freestyles and DJ cuts and all this stuff. And when I first listened to that album, I only wanted to hear the 2 songs that I knew that were on MTV that were more of like fun. And I didn't, and when I heard all these other songs, I was like, what is this shit? This is not what I bought. I want the stuff that I heard on the radio. And then I realized like, oh, actually that's not the good stuff. The good stuff is all the other songs. And my brain kind of started wrapping around that. And when I realized that was when I realized that like, just the beauty of creativity that goes into making classic, timeless hip hop music, and how it pulls from several decades before it and brings it into the past, and takes the past and brings it not just to the present, but throws it way into the future as well. And that gave me my future, and that made me start listening to other things and listening for other producers and other samples, and you know that kind of shaped where my music taste went in my middle school and high school years because of the B side of that album.
Well, you mentioned that you know, Jazzy Jeff became a friend as well. Like you ended up collaborating with him on the Summertime series, which is legendary. How did that connection start? And you know, what's one lesson you picked up from working with like a veteran like him?
We had some mutual friends, and somebody introduced us, and you know, we kind of just like hit it off. And then at the time, I was really heavy in the mixtape world, and he's just always doing the things that he does, which is like iconic things all the time, still to this day. And I was like, hey, like if you ever want to do something in this world, like I can help. And we kind of like collabed on, I think we did like 10 or 11 volumes of that. And it became a real soundtrack for the summer for multiple generations of people. And it was, you know, it was great. I mean, when you get a chance to work with like the reason you became who you are in the first place, like that's already like, you kind of stop there, right? Like that's kind of like, but the thing I learned from him, honestly, is like, has nothing to do with DJing or anything. It's just like, he's just a really great person, dude. That guy loves his wife. He loves his kids. He's super fucking present for his whole family since the beginning. And I try to like, you know, echo that as well with my family. You know, I try to involve my family in as much as I can and share my journey with them and just make them as present as possible in my life. Because like, I think that's the right thing to do. You know, you don't let any of this stuff go to your head. You gotta just keep it like, okay, I got a cool job. I'm very lucky. But you know, it's a cooler job is like having a really dope wife to come home to and having a great kid to come home to. That's a better job.
Yeah, you and your son, like you seem to have an incredible bond. Like there's so much stuff you post, content that you post of him DJing and everything.
He's fucking crazy. He's nuts. He's fucking wild, dude. He's wild.
You see, he seemed to get that from you. Like I think he likes discovering new things.
Yeah. He's super into everything. Like he's super into like, he loves Kendrick, but he also loves like Michael Jackson. He loves Jack Harlow, but then he also loves Tribe Called Quest. So it's really cool to like watch him navigate music, because that generation of kids, they don't have a relationship with music in time because of Spotify and stuff. They could everything is it's always there, right? Which kind of goes against what I said earlier as far as like the availability to have everything all the time, because there's a lot of negatives to that too, I do believe. But the positives are, like when you think about what your parents listened to as a kid, or I think about what my parents listened to as a kid, we knew it was older music because our parents listened to it, but we kind of looked at it as old music because like it was through their lens. But when you have the discovery of everything on your own easily, you don't have to be like, it's not like you have to sit in a car ride with your parents for 4 hours where they play their shit and you have to like learn it. You could just like something and like it and ask your Alexa to play it. And you it's like you're discovering it on your own, which makes you feel ownership of it. So he could discover a Beatles song or a disco song or some stupid like TikTok song or like a Minecraft meme song. Like there's all sorts of wild shit he listens to. It all just, there's no flow to it, but it's from every different genre and every different era. And it's just like, my brain doesn't work like that, but it's fascinating watching how I've learned so much of just watching how he consumes music, because he doesn't think about it as like, oh, well, this is a 60 song, but this song came out in 2024. He's just like, I don't care. That's my shit.
It's all music. Yeah, it's good shit. How has fatherhood changed the way that you think about your time, your creativity, and also your legacy?
Well, he is my legacy, so I think like I saw that. He's awesome. He's a way better version of me, so we're all good there. As far as like time, I mean, it's just time management is an amazing skill that we all strive to have. None of us really have, but we try, and every day hopefully you get better than the day before. I think like for me, I'm only gonna have one kid, to my knowledge. I don't plan on having any more. I try to maximize every second with him, because those seconds aren't going to come again. I'm not going to get like, I don't have a second or third kid like waiting in the wing to like teach him how to shoot a free throw again, or like teach him how to tie their shoe again and things like that. So whenever something is annoying, which happens, by the way, all the fucking time, like you just got to take a step back and like be like, but this is the only time I'm ever going to feel this particular annoyance. So like, let's just enjoy it, because it's the best. It's the best type of annoyance you could ever have, right? And so you just enjoying that. And from a time management perspective, I make a lot of sacrifices on my own time, because I'd rather spend my time with my family. Like if I have to DJ something and it's done at 9:00, and I know he goes to bed at 9:30 if it's the summertime, like I'm probably trying to sneak out of there at 8:59. So I could get home before he goes to bed, or like, I have something in LA in a couple of weeks. I'm definitely going to take a red eye home so I could be back before he has to go to school, so I don't miss that school walk. There's this like, you make little course corrections and adjustments along the way. And, and it works for me. And I'm fortunate. Let me also acknowledge that I'm really privileged to have a job that creates this. I can kind of create a schedule. I mean, I can't create a schedule in the sense that can't tell people when to do their events, right? So I have to I have to DJ when people want to hire me, but I'm grateful that they do. But within the confines of that, it's not like I'm sitting there working like 9 to 5 or 7 to 6 or something like every single day. Like I have the luxury of having a lot of free time that I use for other things, but that the main thing I try to use it for is making sure I'm always available for him. And so I'm very privileged in that regard.
That's awesome. I feel like when you're starting out your career, like you definitely have to say yes to more things. But as you get older, like as more opportunities come your way, you also have to be selective about them and draw some boundaries. And that does come into,
Yeah,
definitely
it's true,
comes in
and it's
handy.
tough to do that. It's tough to do that, honestly, because like I have months that are exuberantly busy, and I have months that are slow as fuck. And some when they're slow, I say yes to a lot of things that I maybe don't want to do because I'm just grateful because I'm still grateful that that I'm able to do them. But like they
Hmm.
might not be the right opportunity or the right economic rate or all of these things. But like sometimes you also have to kind of like pick and choose your battles in that.
Living in a city and creating in New York, how do you stay centered when everything moves like 100 miles an hour? Like, obviously, I think family time helps you do that, but you're
For
traveling a
sure.
lot with DJing and all that stuff. Are there any rituals that you have personally that keep you, level headed?
Oh yeah, there's tons. Like, well, I run a lot, which is really helpful. No matter where I'm at, I try to always go for a run. That's always like therapeutic, mentally, good physically. My wife and I
Hmm.
actually we're training to run the marathon this fall, so that's a disaster. But we're going to do it. But we're way behind. Um, but yeah, I just have certain things I do that kind of like keep me going is like I get outside first thing in the morning every day, no matter what the weather is. Like I can't start my day if I don't like walk to the coffee shop or something and go get coffee and come back home. And it's funny because coffee doesn't even work on me. I could go to the coffee shop and buy a napkin, but it's just I need to like get fresh air. I need to get some sort of like sunlight or something so I can come home. And my wife always knows like if there's a reason some morning we don't do that, then by like 10:30 I'm a bitch. And she's just like, go for a walk, and so it's like that's something that I do to keep myself sane. Like I said, we run. Another thing I do is like when I'm in a certain place, I try to find music from that place that also music that I love, but like I try to like geotag it to like the location. And
Mm.
that kind of makes me feel a little bit more like connected to wherever I'm at in the world, which is really cool. So that's also something that I do that I think subconsciously keeps me like astute. If I'm in LA, there's tons of amazing LA hip hop from 1989 till today I could pull from, right? Or if I'm in the Bay, like
Yeah,
I'm always going to listen to like 93 to Infinity or something like that. Or if I'm like in Canada,
yeah.
like I'm going to listen to like I mean you could say Drake, but I'd rather go back and be like what was it like who did Northern Touch? I forget, like or like Shock Claire and like Cardinal Official and all those guys. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
music sounds very, very Canadian to me at least, and it was an iconic time. So things like that, like I'll go to Miami and listen to like wild bass music. Like it just feels like or like Latin music now. There's just tons of stuff
Yeah.
you could do to like, and I don't know if it's the DJ in me or whatever, but it feels like I like to pretend that like music comes almost like 3D when you hear it in the environment it was created. And
Hmm.
I don't know if that was really true, but for me, it kind of happens that way. Because there's nothing better than listening to like a song that was made in a region or a city that you're in. And sometimes, like, and this has happened to me many times in my life, where like an artist will reference something in a song that made no fucking sense to me at all. But then, like, you're like, oh, they're talking about that restaurant right there, or like, oh,
All right, right.
I just drove through that intersection. That's what they're talking about. It's like little Easter eggs, that only make sense if you're like from there or you go there. And those sort of things are really, really interesting to me. And it happens more than you would think.
I heard on another podcast that you did recently that you're living on the same street that Biggie used to live on, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's down
How
the street. Well, he's not, but he's
how's
alive
the
in our neighborhood though.
like how is it to live in a neighborhood like that? There's so much rich history there, and coming back
Oh,
to your
there's
point
so
of
much, man. It's Brooklyn is crazy. Like if you do like if you think about all the amazing artists that have. I mean, first of all, from New York, it's like it's too much. You can't even go through like the history of music through New York City. It's like you'd lose your mind. But just in
uh
like in Brooklyn specific, and even if you're just thinking about like hip hop and jazz and soul, like it was insane. Like I'll read it like, oh, like this amazing jazz artist from the 80s and early 90s lived. I just found out he lived like 2 blocks away from me, like next to this library my kid used to go to, and I'm just like, what? Like really?
yeah.
And like I'll never not like think of that, but then that will make me go like listen to that, and it's just like it's true with so many amazing, especially jazz artists, early hip hop artists, and even contemporary hip hop artists. Like I love
Right.
this guy, Coda the Friend, who I don't know
Oh
him at all,
yeah.
but like he's incredible, and I guess he grew up in the same neighborhood that I live in now, and he did a lot of awesome projects with my friend Static Selector, and he it's funny, I actually discovered him. For me, I didn't discover him, but like I came about his music because my wife and I were looking up apartments in our neighborhood where we live, and we were looking on YouTube to look at like apartment listings. And we live in Clinton Hill, Brooklyn, and he had a song called Clinton Hill, and
Mm,
it came up when we just searched like Clinton Hill, Brooklyn, but we were looking like for like apartments,
yeah.
and his song came up, and I was like, "What is this?" And I listened to it, and I was just like, "Yo, this is incredible!" And then I became like a big fan of his, like after seeing that. But I only found it because like he was like geotagged in with the like the apartment stuff, and he like, and then I'm just like listening to like his new shit and like looking at the album cover, and he shot the album cover for his project that came out a couple weeks ago at this diner that my wife and I go to all the time. That's like 2 blocks away, and I'm just like, I don't know,
Wow.
it's cool. It's just like I'm just like, I know that booth, I know that brick wall. Like, where is that? You know, and then she's like, we go there, you know, and I'm just like, it's just stuff like that is really cool to me. Like those little connectivity moments. Now I'm lucky that I live in a place where that stuff happens. It's probably a little bit
Yeah,
tougher
more
if you live
often.
in like North Dakota or like,
Yeah, yeah.
Calgary, but
Do you have any mentors? We mentioned Jazzy Jeff, but aside from that, like, do you read a lot? And if you do have mentors, how are you dealing with receiving it and also paying it forward?
I do read a lot. I read a lot. I have a million books I start and never finish. Drives my wife nuts. We have like, there's probably like 30 books around the house that are like never been finished, but I go back to them, and I'm kind of giving up on finishing them and just kind of think of them as tools there when you need them. I've never
I
really
do the
had a
same thing.
mentor. Yeah, I think that's just what we do, right? But I realize I read so many, newsletters and Substacks and just all sorts of stuff all the time that like I'm consuming information and educating myself 24 hours a day, unfortunately.
Hmm.
And even though I still kind of like come from it's funny, like I don't feel like I really accomplished like reading or learning something if I'm reading it digitally, because I still kind of came from a world where for the first 30 years of my life I read it analog. But
Uh-huh.
like so like if I'm on a beach or if I'm like relaxing, like I don't want an electronic device at all. I want to because I'm always looking at other shit while I'm doing that. Like if I'm reading something on the
Right,
Kindle, I'm
right.
still like looking at and with the book, at least until I need to switch the song on my AirPods, I'm not checking my phone. And then, I'm at least
Yeah.
remotely analog for at least 15 minutes gaps, which are really nice. As far as mentorship, though, mentorship, back to your question, I never had any real specific mentors. No, I had a lot of people that like inspired me. I had a lot of people that would, if I asked them a question, they would give me advice. Not really mentorship per se.
Hmm.
But I have tried to also just like when people ask me the same, similar questions, I try to like give them, the answers that I could give them as well. There's been at least 2 generations of DJs that have come under me now,
Hmm.
and I'm happy to be an ear to them as much as I can, and give advice as much as I can.
Yeah, I feel like that's what people don't realize is if you want to reach out to someone, a lot of times you send them a DM, they might not respond 99% of the time, but if you're lucky, there's that 1% out of 99 which will respond to you, and you get to learn from them. Like the important thing, the important part is not to give up and not like get discouraged if you fail the five
No,
times or
you're a
10
thousand
times in a
percent
row.
right. But I will say this too. Like I think that like you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't, because I'm sure people reach out to you all the time for similar stuff in your world. But like the amount of people that actually lack manners and perspective when they're
Oh
when
yeah.
they're
Yeah.
making these asks, and I'm like, yo, like what are we doing? Like you're
Mm.
asking me for my time. I'm happy to give you 5 minutes of my time or whatever. But like where's the please? And it's like I think of like what if my kid did that, I'd ground him. Like where's the
Yeah, for
please?
sure.
Where's the thank you? Where's the fake compliment at the beginning? Like the rules. There's
Yeah,
rules to
yeah.
this. There's a societal norms, and I'm really shocked. When people reach out to me with entitlement, that's a quick non-reply. But
Hmm.
also like, but to your point, you never know. Like sometimes somebody will email me and it'll be like, look, somebody emailing me right now, right? And I see it coming at the bottom of my screen, but I'm talking to you. Then by the time we get off this podcast, there's 10 more emails, and I got to go do something with my wife as soon as we're done. So I'm not going to check it. And then by the time I really get to it, it's going to be tomorrow, and it's going to be like I'll be back in the room. But who knows? Like maybe they send it again in 3 weeks, and it happens to be when I'm sitting on a runway delayed for 3 hours, and I have like nothing to do.
Exactly.
And so like I think people persistence plus manners.
Mm.
Great, it's a great 1-2 punch.
Well, to bring back the analogy that you brought up earlier, let's say you're going on a date with a girl, like that's the same kind of scenario. You might ask her out that day and you don't know what's happening in her life. Maybe she's super busy with work. Maybe something happened in her personal life and she just not responsive. But you hit up the same person maybe like 2 weeks later and they're like in a super good mood and they might just be like, hey, you know what? Let's go for drinks.
Yeah, there you go. Then
but it does come from but it has to come from a place where it's value giving from both sides. If you are at a place in your life where you want to reach out to someone that's accomplished more than you, well, first of all, be mindful of their time, be respectful of that, and if you're able to do that, well, it shows you have at least some sort of tact, and you've done your research to understand that person is busy as well, and not take it personally if that person doesn't reply to you. Like if right now I'm messaging someone like Gary Vee and he doesn't get back to me like in 2 weeks, like I understand the guy's super busy, but that's just an example. But that's how people should see it.
I've had people ask me for advice. I get back to them in a responsible amount of time. Then they get back to me like 4 months later and tell me how busy they are. Sorry, I'm like, the fuck you want me to do here? Like I got nothing. I got nothing for you.
Right.
Like it's just funny, It's just like I can't help you. Then what are we supposed to do? I can't help you if you won't let me.
Yeah, right. Well, you've played in cities like all over the world. You've played in Dubai. You've played in Cairns and also like NYC. Which one challenges you the most, and which one feeds your soul the most?
I mean, the blanket answer is I'm grateful to play in any city that would want me to play there, right? Like that's kind of like my holistic approach at this point, because I'm lucky to still be doing this at like 47, right? It's wild to me that like I'm doing this still and it's still going well. So I'm kind of like... Is there a
city, okay, maybe let me rephrase the question. Is there a city that surprised you that you wouldn't have thought like you would have liked as much, and then eventually like when you played there, you were like, wow, the ambiance is fantastic?
Well, I knew Montreal would be great every time I've ever been in Montreal. So I won't say Montreal. Let me think. I mean, I kind of know what I'm going into whenever I go places, but I would say, you know what? I would actually, I'll give a shout out to my hometown of Cleveland, because like for a long time, I always thought it was musically a little bit behind, even when I was there. And I can say this because I'm from there, and I moved. And then now when I go home like back to Ohio several times a year to do stuff, it's pretty fucking awesome, dude. Like, it's like, it's really like, I just have such a great time whenever I go back there and get to play and not just to see people that I grew up with and all that, but like the culture there is just really evolved and changed. And it's such a great city now. And I'm just like, I'm glad to be from there, but it's really cool to like, when I go home now, I could play to the level I am now, but like, I don't have to like play like to what I think Cleveland would be. Like Cleveland's fantastic. Like, so I could just play. So that was a really cool growth and surprise that happened. And I was very, I'm kind of glad it happened a little bit later though, because maybe I wouldn't have moved and then I wouldn't have the life that I have now. But it's really cool to see like what an awesome city it's become. It's fantastic. Another city I love, and I haven't been there in a very long time, but I love playing there, is Tokyo. I have not been to Tokyo since before the pandemic. So if anybody is listening to this from Tokyo, please reach out. Fantastic city. City in every aspect of the whole world. It's like the most amazing thing. So I want to go back there, but it's just like, I also just want to go there and buy a bunch of vintage toys.
Yeah. So are you into collecting?
Oh yeah, very much so. I mean, you can see
I see behind you
like all sorts of vintage Transformers from the 80s, and I still collect like rare cassettes, which you can see over this shoulder. I don't know if this is going to be a video podcast or not. There's all sorts of stuff in this office that you can't see, but yeah. And I got my son kind of on that vibe too. It's really fun. It's really cool because the stuff that was really cool in the 80s and 90s, for some reason, it stayed cool.
Yeah.
Like all the cool properties from like that era have been reinvented enough that they've never really, I mean, people know they're not new, but like there are kids today who still know what Transformers are and Ninja Turtles and Super Mario and Nintendo and Sonic, and like, you know, all Pokemon and all, you know, all of those things, like those things aren't new, but like every generation rediscovers them and makes them their own. I don't think there was a time in culture before that where generations can kind of like merge over one thing. I guess maybe like, I guess Star Wars stuff was in the late 70s. I don't know. I never really watched Star Wars, but
I think that's like the oldest we can get to. Yeah.
That's the only thing where you could think of, like your grandpa watched Star Wars and maybe you watched one in 2008 or something like that. But as far as everything else, I mean, outside of sports has always been a great equalizer between generations, you know, which is really cool. But as far as like collecting, you know, besides like collecting like sports cards, like it's really cool to just have like memorabilia that would mean something to me that I could also just kind of like project it forward. And I think collecting is important because I think my son said something to me the other day because he started collecting these like really weird like Transformer card things with them. I didn't even know there were Transformer cards, but like he doesn't care about Transformers like I do, but like he loves the idea of collecting the cards and he wants to have like the whole set. And he said something to me the other day where we were missing like 10 cards from the set, and I was like, well, we can go on eBay and just like find those 10 cards, you know. And he was just like, no, I want to go to the store with you and buy a box and we, you know, and open them
and unpack it.
And I'm like, because that's what we did when we opened them in the first place. Because he's like, that's the fun part. And I'm like, yo, you're 1,000% right. And I completely agree with you. But and that's what we did to get most of the set. But now we only need like 10 cards. And I'm just like, I could get those 10 cards for $20 online. But he wants to go spend like $200 on 2 more boxes. And I'm just like, now it's like, we did the fun part. We went to the store, we bought the box, we opened it up. I'm kind of like, we can spend $20 and finish it. We don't need another 200 cards. You know, I'm sure we'll get the 10, but like economics here, $20 is $200. But he was like adamant about it because he wants to have that experience with me. And I was like, fuck it. You're right. Like, you know what? We're not going to go out to eat this week. We're going to just cook at home. And we're going to go get those fucking cards and we're going to sit there and we're going to open them up. And that's what we're going to do. We're doing that shit Thursday. And it's awesome, right? And, but for him to say that made me very happy because you know what? He doesn't have a grasp on economics yet. So let's just remove that from that. But like, if you just look at the pure mind state of that, of the quality time with your family, the experience of doing something that's experiential and not just like the digital version of it. Like his mind is 1,000% right, completely on that. It's just, he's just off by about $180.
Yeah. But I totally side with him on that. Like I collect Pokemon.
I checked myself really quick on that. I'm like, yo, you're right. We're going to do that.
I've been getting back into Pokemon and also like Magic the Gathering. My God, man. It's insane. The markets now, especially with like how much information now is available at your fingertips. Before, if you wanted to know the prices of cards, you needed to buy, they had these magazines called like Inquest or whatever, like to get the prices of cards in them. Now it's just like you go online and everybody has the same level of information, which makes like trading absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it makes crazy. It's like, I mean, sneakers the same thing, right? It's the same thing now.
Yeah.
Like that's what you can get any sneaker you want. But I used to love coming to New York just to find some weird thing that nobody had. But I get that now from records. Like I still dig for a lot of vinyl, and I don't ever have anything in mind when I go to random record stores. But any city I go to, I find like a really cool record store, and I go because I just want to be surprised. And then now I'm kind of an idiot, and I forget that I have something, so I buy it again. And then I come home, and my wife's like, "What the fuck?" You know, we're kind of in that phase now, the what the fuck. And I'm like, well, we gotta make a spreadsheet so I could search alphabetically when I'm in random cities, but.
You mentioned collecting, but I know that you also co-wrote D is for DJ, which is, you know, a very different kind of creative project for you. What inspired you to bring hip hop to kids, and what was the deeper mission behind the book?
Well, I mean, my kid first and foremost, like he was like maybe 3 or 4 or 5, I forget when we came up with that idea. And there's just like when he was born 9 years ago, there was like no alphabet books that were really hip hop related. They were just like I mean, first of all, let's be very clear. It's a book that has like 26 words in it. This is not the Bible, or, you know, this is not like, you know, this is nobody's like best work. Okay. It's a kid's alphabet book. So 26 letters, you know, each corresponding with a historical DJ in the context of hip hop culture, which you can see it behind me. It's framed on the wall. But yeah, like, so like, let's be generous and say I wrote 2 words for every letter. So I wrote 52 words. If not, no one's winning an award for this, but it was just cool because it's very important. This culture, and this specifically the DJing aspect of hip hop culture, gave me my life, and it gave me my family, it gave me my son, it gave me everything. And I just want people to understand that, you know, and I want people to appreciate the culture the same way I do and respect it the same way I do. That was kind of our thought process with it. Like, how many more books do we need to be like B is for Beatles, or you know, like R is for Rolling Stones? Like, I get it, but why can't J be for Jazzy Jeff, right? And why can't G be for Grandmaster Flash? Like, let's do that.
What's something that right now you're curious about or experimenting with, whether it's creatively, personally, or professionally?
I mean, I'm really fascinated by AI right now. Like, who isn't? But like,
oh my God,
it's just really interesting. Like, I forget sometimes that it really can enhance your workflow in so many ways. It's changed DJing with how DJs can separate stems live while they're DJing and do like all sorts of live remixes and like all these sort of like videos I have some of them going viral now. They're like me DJing and putting together these cool remixes, and I do some of them with my son actually. And like, we couldn't do that if there weren't this like AI component to the DJ software now that allows you to just strip out the vocals in real time. But beyond DJing stuff, just like using it to like extrapolate other goals of mine in a much faster way. And even watching my wife use it for her company. She has an incredible baby food company that she's a co-founder of. And just like, it really is like, I'm not fearful of it at all. Like, I think it's going to completely enhance and change our lives for the best. I'm not one of those people that's like, it's going to take my job. It's going to, it took my job. My bad DJs have taken my job, but like, I'm not worried about AI, like, cause I'm going to be better than that. But like, and also like, if we were worried about people, when you go in with that mindset, you're fucking yourself from the beginning. People said that about telephones and TVs and computers and calculators and, airplanes with Wi-Fi and like everything that every advancement we've ever had, people have said like it's gonna, and it does, but it creates so much more opportunity as well. Just figure it out.
They were saying the same shit about photography. Painters were saying if you use a camera to take a photo of like this valley and you don't paint it, you're being lazy. And like, no, it happens to be a whole different medium.
Yeah, it's not even the same. It's like, I don't know. I think that's weird, but I get it. Like, I definitely am stuck in my own way sometimes in a lot of ways because I came through so many different eras and different timelines of how things converge. Like, I'm the real first generation of person that like where half of my life was analog and half of my life was like digital, right? And that's really interesting. If you're like in your 40s, that was your life. The internet happened at the end of your teenage years, and then so you came of age analog, but then right when everything counted, you shit flipped digital. And that's really interesting, right? It gives you a really unique perspective that no other generation is going to have. Like, my wife, she's 35. She was born in 1990. Like, by the time she started having to make decisions for herself, the internet was there, but for me, like, it didn't happen really until I was 18. Like, I was an adult when I got a computer with a modem, and so having, really, so it's like, I had 18 years, or let's not say 18, but I had my most formative years of my life in an analog capacity, right? And so when you have both of those, it's really interesting. You kind of like learn how to use both sides of your brain and learn how to kind of like flow in those different ways, which I believe creates a whole bunch of really awesome correlations and positive synapses in your head. But I also believe it kind of hurts you a little bit too, because it makes you lean a little bit nostalgic at times, maybe more than you should. And I'm definitely a victim of that sometimes as well. But, I don't know, just it is what it is. I'm just going to.
Yeah, kids nowadays will never understand how it was back then when you were meeting up with friends. Like, you literally had to take your phone at home to call the other friend's phone at home and say, like, we're going to meet up here at 3 p.m. And you just trusted that they would show up. Nowadays,
well, it's funny. My son, now he has an iPad, and I won't get him a phone for a long time, but he's group texts his friends in 4th grade. And it's mostly just group texts about like Minecraft. And then when they play together online, we just started letting him play online. He plays with them and they FaceTime each other, and then they play out like as a group. And so it's kind of like versus, and it's fine. It's completely safe, and I'm fine with him doing that. But what I realized, which was really interesting, was like there's kids on our street that don't go to his school and aren't in his like peer group, and he just never sees them. He doesn't know them, and they don't know him. And I mean, they might see each other walking down the street, but nobody has any clue who the fuck the other person is, except for during the pandemic. It was a little bit different because everybody kind of like saw them. But when I grew up, and I didn't realize this till yesterday, my wife and I were talking about this. Like, my house was 30 minutes away from my elementary school, most of the kids that went to my elementary school lived within 5 to 10 minute radius of the school. I happen to live in some far out suburb that just happened to be zoned from my school. So whereas most of the kids at school played with the kids from school after school because they were all in the same neighborhoods, I didn't do that. I had so my friends consisted of my neighborhood friends. So my school friends stopped at 3:30, and then my neighborhood friends started at 3:30.
Oh,
and
interesting.
I had two completely different groups of friends. I had the guys I saw every day till 3:30, and then when I got home and I wanted to play basketball or play baseball or ride bikes, it was the kids that lived in my neighborhood. And because I didn't have a way to connect with them virtually or texting, or you could like call them on your parents' phone in fourth grade, but that didn't really get you very far, And so I just thought it was really interesting because I never thought about the fact that I had two different groups of friends because of just like life. It was because how I was geo-fenced in throughout the course of my day, and he was just like, why don't I know these kids? And I was just like, that's a great question. I don't know why you don't know them. But then I was just like, also, you sit in a room with these other kids for 8 hours a day, and when you come home, the first thing you want to do is text them and play Minecraft with them. And I'm like, don't imagine sitting in a cubicle all day at work, bro, doing whatever the fuck people do. And then you get out of work and you just want to hang out with that person again until like 10 p.m. Like, that's not sustainable for your mental health. So I try to tell them, like, yo, like, it's take a break.
Yeah.
These fucking people are going to be there tomorrow morning at 7:59 when you walk in the building. Like, give it a break. But like, also it's fun. But yeah, it is interesting when you think about it like that.
You've always struck me as someone that's open-minded to try new things. Did that come naturally to you as you were growing up, or it's something that you've learned as you developed your journey?
I think I've learned it. I think by default, I'm a creature of habit, which is not good. But it is. But I also think it is good in some ways, right? Like, if there's something that works for you and it's not broken, why change it? If there's something that makes you feel good and it's not harmful to you, and for me, that's the music I grew up listening to and all of that stuff. Like, why stop? But at the same time, you have to kind of like grow and evolve. So moving to a city like New York when you were born in Ohio, that was a big jump, right? Like. Having what else was another for me, the thing I did that was exciting for me, maybe I wish I could have did it a little bit earlier, but I had to do it when the time was right. But I started like changing my peer groups to people that really were different than me, so I could kind of like learn and absorb from them, and I could also like give them like what I've learned so I could help them as well. And so rather than hang out with 10 people that all do the same thing I do or do something tangentially related to what I do, like, let me be the only one of me in this group with like 5 or 6 or 10 other people who all do other shit too. And then it's much more interesting, right? Because I could learn from these guys. They could learn from me. They could learn from each other. And it took me to really in my mid-30s to figure out that I don't have to just put myself in a box of hanging out with DJs and rappers and producers, because that's what I am. And I still do, by the way. Like, some of my best friends are still those people. But it's just like, also like having that plus having something else as well it's really made me a much more well-rounded person. I'm the type of person that like I'll throw everybody in a fucking pot together. Like, my wife and I remember we had a barbecue at our house 2 years ago, and I was just like, yo, I'm just going to invite 20 people I like. You invite 20 people you like. And I told my son, you can invite any 5 people you want. And like we made it That's super cool. Inclusive. So there's just like 5 kids from his school, their parents who have nothing to fucking do with anything I'm involved with at all. And then all the people from my wife's side, and like everyone's just in the backyard playing, like, like throwing around like balls and like cooking hot dogs and like chatting and having the best time. And I'm just like, this is crazy. Who says that like this can't happen? Why can't this happen? Like, we always think we often overthink how we curate our lives in some way, shape, or form. And truthfully, there's value in all relationships.
Yeah, I feel like, to your point, the best relationships I've gotten to have was when I went out of my way to just change my environment and not be in an echo chamber of people that do exactly the same things as you. Because if you're in that echo chamber, you're always the idea you came up with, whether it's a business idea or whatever, your friend probably thinks the same way as you, so she's going to come up with the same idea as you. But if you surround yourself with people doing different shit, that's when something completely different might spark an interest, Like, I didn't think I was going to open restaurants, but
Right.
being in a certain crowd, like, hey, you know what? This opportunity came about. I'm like, yeah, why not?
The only reason people discovered like quote unquote shortcuts in life are because there was a blockage one day that made them not take the way they knew they could go. And that's true if you're literally you drove to work on a freeway 30 times in a row, and then one day there was an accident on the freeway and you had to get off and cut through some alley to get through your thing, and you discover, oh shit, I actually saved 6 minutes. Or it could be like, like I had this workflow in Ableton making a song, but I just learned I could do this. Or it could be really anything. It could be the chef at your restaurant that like, wow, I didn't know I could just use this one sugar and it made up for this. Like, there's just all sorts of like weird little hacks and shortcuts that only happen because of constraints that we find ourselves in sometimes. And I think the key is to like embrace when life throws those at you. Like I love when my flight gets delayed and I have to like something else has to happen, or like I mean, not to the point that I want to miss work or anything like that, but like I've just learned to like, okay, well, what cool thing is going to happen to me during these 3 hours that I didn't think was going to happen? Like I know what was going to happen to me when I landed during those 3 hours. I was going to go to this coffee shop that I was going to do and eat at this lunch before I go get ready for this gig. But now that I'm not going to land until right before the gig, something different's going to happen to me now in these next 3 hours that I was not expecting, because I had zero fucking plans for these 3 hours. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, and also like when it snaps you out of your day to day, you were saying, let's say you're commuting to work and you're always using the same road to go there, you're much less present in the moment because you're so used to making that ride every fucking day.
You're using your muscle memory at that point.
Yeah, exactly. But once you snap out of that, that's when you can actually think creatively. I feel like for me, that's why I like to travel to new places, because seeing different things just with your eyes in some way just brings you more to the present, because you can't allow yourself to be on autopilot. You've never seen this scenery,
Yeah, like that's 1,000% right. And the goal is for that to never stop, right?
I want to be wary of your time as well. Like I have 2 final questions for you.
Sure.
What's a common myth that people have about the DJ world and the entertainment industry at large? And how do you navigate that disconnect in your day to day?
I mean, I would say for me, I think, and it's a myth that has some truth to it. Like I think a lot of people think DJs want to be like the life of the party and be out late and be like on these super ragers and stuff like all the time. And most of the DJs I know of every age group are just like some of the most thoughtful, conscientious people in the world. And, we don't want to be standing on a DJ booth pouring champagne on a crowd at 2 a.m. Some of us have to for our jobs. I'm kind of lucky I don't have to really do that anymore. But like, just because you have a predisposed notion of what a career is, like, doesn't necessarily mean that's how everybody acts in their private time. So I think that's one thing, for DJs, and specifically I can't speak to other aspects of entertainment, but, people think you always have to be just like on, and I prefer to be off,
I feel like when people think about DJs, like they think, they're just living the lavish lifestyle of going to a gig and then never knowing like when it's going to end up. And as you were saying, pouring champagne everywhere. But it's actually, you have to be very methodical, because you only have a certain amount of time in your day. And also like you have to wake up the next day and do it all again. And it's not sustainable if you just let yourself go off the rails.
You got to know, like, I mean, if I'm DJing somewhere and I have a 6 a.m. flight, then, maybe you don't have that last drink, or maybe you do, like, make sure you eat a good dinner before so you can get those 3 hours of sleep, or maybe it means you don't sleep at all, but so you don't miss your flight. But you have to be responsible, and that's true in any job. But like, for us, it's a little bit different, I guess.
If you had to name like 5 top rappers for you, who would they be?
Of all time?
Yeah, for you personally.
Like known or unknown? Like no, like popular, like Biggie, Jay-Z level, or just like more obscure?
Let's go like more underground.
Okay, good, because then you could just be like Biggie, Tupac, Jay-Z, Eminem. I mean, I would say, for me, it would be people like, it's not unknown at all, but like people still sleep on how amazing Black Thought is. I think he's like the best rapper ever, pound for pound, talent wise, from the roots. I would say Pos from De La Soul. De La Soul gets mentioned a lot as an iconic group, but he doesn't get mentioned a lot as an iconic MC, and I think he should. I would say from like more newer generation people, I think we could throw in like let's throw in Coda the Friend, because like I think he's still underrated, even though
He's really good.
because we talked about that earlier. Most Def, Yasin Bey, even though again he's an icon, but like again they mention him because he just embodies such an amazing persona. But like him and Kweli together, I put them as like a thing, are just, it's just like such a magical duo of lyricism that I think, you know, is just incredible, and it was really inspirational to me.
I wanted to take a little moment to acknowledge you for, the great journey you've had, but also for being a really kind person. First time I met you at a conference in Montreal, very open, very kind-hearted to speak to me, even though we didn't know each other at the time. I think I was doing photos over there with everything. We met through that conference that Thierry threw in Montreal. But I want to acknowledge you for that, and also like acknowledge you for always moving culture forward in hip hop. Like I've been a big fan of yours, and the mixtapes you've did like early on, and it was really a pleasure to have you in Montreal as well for the opening of my restaurant. So thank you for doing all that.
Thank you for asking me, and thank you for having me on your podcast. And I'm excited to see all the amazing stuff you young people are going to do, so I can watch.
I'm going to be on the lookout to see when Miles finally surpasses you in DJing.
Oh, it's gonna happen sooner than later. Like the other day, we were just like messing around, and I was just like, "What?" Like like where? He was just like, I'm like, I don't know where you got that. So yeah, it's cool. It's gonna happen sooner than later.
Thanks, man. It was great catching up with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Until next time.